I'm David Domínguez. I'm a postdoc researcher at the University of Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, and I've been working in PerformFISH since the beginning of the project. And I've been mainly involved in work package 4, but I've also been working in other work packages such as work package 6. Focus on efficient feeds, and we cover several aspects of how to improve the efficiency of feeds. The first one, and it's the one in which I've been focusing most of my work in the last years, is defining optimal levels for micronutrients. So these are mineral and vitamins, basically. And it's very interesting to see that despite being one of the most important fish that's produced in the EU, within the EU, there hasn't been much attention focused on mineral and vitamin requirements for Gillette Seabream. And this is very it was very worrying for us when we were designing this project, because micronutrients, despite being very low quantities in feeds, they play a major role in many of the metabolic processes of the fish. And actually there was almost no knowledge behind the requirements of this for this fish. And they are essential, right? So we need to include them in the diet. They cannot produce them. They cannot synthesize them de novo. And during this project, we have managed to define optimum levels for 3 minerals and for 6 vitamins. So this is like a major breakthrough. And as I say, one small change in the amount of any of these micronutrients can go a long way in terms of efficiency. We can see a higher growth. We can see a lower prevalence of diseases, of skeletal anomalies. So yes, this is one of the major aspects in which we have managed to advance the research in these Mediterranean species. Then we have also been working with introducing novel ingredients in Mediterranean farms, and this is following the trend that have been found. You can find it in other species. You can find it in salmon, but also in other non-European fish species. And it's basically it basically answers to the necessity of the industry, not only in Europe but worldwide, of reducing the amount of traditional ingredients that have been used in aquaculture. So many years ago, not in the last decades, but many years ago, most of the aquafeeds were based on fish meal and fish oil. This was changing from the 90s, 2000s up until now, and we are mainly using plant sources. So plant sources that can be farmed under controlled conditions, such as soy, for example, which are ingredients that can also be found in feeds for other farm animals, for other livestock. And well, we had this issue with fish meal and fish oil, which was that they have to be obtained from wild fisheries. So they are a finite resource. And as we all know, wild fisheries are being depleted. They are basically under a huge pressure because we consume fish, we consume wild fish, and aquaculture has been growing, right? So we need to find an ingredient that could grow hand to hand with the growth of aquaculture, right? So then we moved on to these terrestrial plants. But the issue we have here is that these terrestrial plants are also being used by livestock. So we have to compete with this livestock for these resources, right? So and once again, not all these plant ingredients are being farmed in a sustainable way or environmentally friendly way. So you have, for example, the case of soya being grown in some countries which are not grown in the best conditions, or they, sometimes you need vast areas of land to be grown, and in some cases you can find it in rainforests, for example, being completely destroyed to farm soy. So we're moving towards a more circular economy worldwide, basically. And so these novel ingredients can sometimes answer to these issues that we're facing with these terrestrial plant ingredients. And so we've been using, for example, byproducts from the poultry industry. So we've been using poultry oil, for example, and we've been using also ingredients from marine origin, but farm marine origin. For example, microalgae, which is the one of the greatest assets that we have if we want to cultivate the sea, right? And we've been working with these two ingredients basically to substitute fish oil. Fish oil is essential for marine fish because they can it has a very high level of essential fatty acids, so long chain polyunsaturated fatty acids, for example, DHA and EPA. And these are basically found in large quantities in marine oils, especially from microalgae. And marine fish cannot produce it. They need to find it in the feed, right? And this was one of our main objectives, and we did see that if we can substitute 100% of the fish oil from feeds in gillhead sea bream with this blend of poultry oil and microalgae oil derived from a commercially available source, and we did see there were no differences in growth or in other productive parameters, and there were also no differences in the essential fatty acid composition of the fillet. So which is good, because then consumers, we can eat this fish and be completely safe that we have the same amount of this very good fatty acids in our diet, and there were also no differences in the health parameters. And then with fish meal, we have been able to substitute 66% of what is already present in the diet, which is already very low, because as I was telling you, these levels have been reduced and they are being substituted by plant ingredients. And we have managed to substitute the 66% of this fish meal with insect meals and single cell proteins, which are derived from yeast or from bacteria cultures. And as the same case as with the oils, we have seen that there's no differences in growth, and there's no differences in other productive parameters, etc. So yeah, we're getting there, and well, this is essential because nowadays we see that not only we are less dependent from the sea, but we're less dependent on these plant ingredients, which we have a competition with our livestock. And in the past years, 2 or 3 years, we've seen shortages because we've had a war in Europe with one of the largest producers of plant ingredients, of wheat, and and this has put a very heavy burden on the supply chain. And we also had the blocking of the Suez Canal, which has also caused a huge problem for aquafeed producers. And of course, we had COVID, which was also another one. No? So 3 very, very meaningful worldwide crises in 2 years. So feed producers right now, they need as much flexibility when formulating their diets as possible, and this can only be done if we're able to research and to produce alternative ingredients, novel ingredients, with which they can work, right? And the last of the aspects that we've been working on in this work package was working on the use of conditioning of the fish. So basically, we call it nutritional programming, which is a way of changing in certain key aspects of the developmental stages of the fish. So we have an environmental input, and this is able to remain in the fish for all their lifestyle. So it's not a genetic selection, because we're not selecting broodstock. What we're doing is that we're putting this environmental input, which causes a series of epigenetic changes in the fish, and then they are able to use better a series of resources, for example, fatty acids. And we've been doing this since the previous project which we worked, the Araina project, with a lot of success, actually. So these fish are able to utilize much better essential fatty acids in very low quantities or from plant sources, which was almost unheard of before these trials. So yes, we have. I think in these 4 aspects, we have managed to improve the efficiency of the feeds in the Mediterranean farming industry. Very quickly, yes, I mean, efficiency is basically how much. So efficiently can be defined as how much feed we can give to the fish, and how much meat or fish how much product we're going to get back in return, right? And efficiency is probably the most important aspect of Mediterranean aquaculture, because feeding costs are the #1 cost for a farm in Mediterranean fish. So it's the first cost. It's not the maintenance. It's not the salaries from the employees. It's the feed. So a tiny improvement of the efficiency is going to go a long way in terms of budget-wise for the farmers. And as I say, we're moving into a world in which we have increasing population, resources are scarce, we have climate change. So we need to fine-tune this machinery that is called the Mediterranean farming industry, aquaculture farming industry. And as I say, even smallest changes in some of these nutrients that I've been talking about, minerals, vitamins, essential fatty acids, they produce a huge amount of a huge difference in terms of efficiency. So yes, as you say, we have generated, well, PerformFISH has generated a ton of information, and well, this was basically the idea when we were working on the project design, and it's also been very helpful that we've been able to gather more than 90% of the fish farmers in the EU. So it was basically their project, and they came to us, academia, to find solutions to problems that they can tackle, right? And so with this in mind, we were thinking on how to improve this, how to improve this all these problems that they were facing. And so we designed this. We with all the information that we have produced in the project, we designed this tool, which is basically a tool in which you can compare the conditions in which your fish are being reared, densities, temperature, but especially nutrition-wise, and you can see what are your conditions in your farm, what are your feeds, what's the nutritional profile of your feeds, and you can compare it with the levels that we have been describing in the project, and then you can see if you need to supply more vitamin A, for instance, or if you need to reduce the amount of selenium, and this will, of course, will affect the outcome of the farm. So we've been working on this more practical approach, so that the fish farmers can use this tool to their benefit. Final remark. I mean, we've been working for 5 years now, I think, and with COVID in the middle, so it was very hard. But I think that I've been working in several EU-funded projects. I mean, I'm quite young, but I've been lucky enough to be in a very good research team, which has been always involved in European projects. And I can say from my short experience that PerformFISH has been amazing. I mean, we've managed to work closely with the industry, which is sometimes can be very difficult. We've managed to solve key aspects of research gaps that we had since decades ago almost, and we can safely say that if you look at the knowledge that was available back in 2016-17, and you look at the knowledge that it has been already generated, and that will be generated because we're still publishing results now in 2022, it would be safe to say that we've come a very long way, and we've managed to take a giant step forward in terms of research at least.